Hi, Joe Stedman, and I'm going to be doing another video on ASL. This video is going to be specifically about tanks and their movement and firing, and I've got a lot of requests for this. Now, what I'm going to show you is what about 75% or more of your typical armored battles, armored movement will involve. And with all ASL, there's always a rule for a rule for a rule. So, you know, there's going to be exceptions and there's going to be things that I'm not going to cover, but I'm just going to cover what you 80-90% of the games that you play. These are the rules that you'll only have to worry about. And with ASL, the more you know the rules, the better a player you'll get. And it seems like there's always going to be someone out there better than you who knows the rules better than you, especially if you travel to different tournaments and to conventions and stuff. But if you get these rules down, you should be able to do fine playing with your buddies or playing on Vassal. So let me zoom in and show you some stuff and walk you through some basic armored combat.
Alright, so here you have your basic Tiger. We got all kinds of stuff going on in this counter. And not only all the stuff on the front, but if you look at the back, there's a bunch of stuff on the back as well. Let's talk about the stuff that's most commonly used and what you should know about it. First off, we see this big number here. This is the movement factors, and this will always be important. And it's in red, which means there's a chance that this tank will break down when you roll. When you first start up this tank, every time you spend your first movement factor to start it up, you got to roll 2 dice. If you roll boxcars, which is always bad in ASL, you're going to immobilize your tank. And trust me, it's 1 roll in 36, but it happens all the time. And so never put your Tiger in a spot, don't ever stop your Tiger in a spot where it'll be out of the game if you blow up the transmission. I've done that before. Then you have this box number 11, which is your frontal armor, and then you have this number 8, which is your side and rear armor. Now it's boxed, and box is good. Think of a box is good, a circle is bad. A box is tough. Think of it like a big, strong box. It's hard to crush. A circle is like a balloon. A circle means inferior, a box means superior. So the armor factor in this is 11, and that means that since it's boxed, it's going to go up 1 armor factor automatically. And the armor factors are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 11, 14, 18, 26. So we know this is an 11, so it's automatically going to go up to a 14 armor. Alright? And it's red. And that red's going to come into the vehicle size. Let's see here, there's different vehicle sizes. There's very large. If both of these numbers were red, it's a +2 to hit. When people are shooting it, it's just huge like an elephant. This has got 1 red number, so that's a +1 to hit. It's a big, huge Tiger. It's easy to hit it. No numbers, they're both black as normal. And then if you have a white, there's a white dot like behind a number, it's a small target. It's a -1 to hit. And if there's another one, it's another -1. I say -1, I mean, terminology, let's get that right off the bat. A -1, I'm just saying it's 1 harder to hit. But technically it's a it'd be a +1 to your die roll, and this is just the confusing part of ASL. I do it backwards than most people, so bear with me. So when I say it's a +1, that means it's +1 to hit it. Alright, and that's pretty much, you know, I guess that's not uncommon. A lot of guys do, play that way. That's what I say. So, and then 2 stars or 2 colored dots will mean +2 to hit it, which means it's very small. That'd be like a Jeep or something like that. And down here you have your machine guns. Sometimes there'll be up to 3 here. Your first one is always going to be your bow machine gun, which is the one that's in the base of the tank, that whichever way the main part of the tank is facing, that's where the machine gun's going to be. It's like up here somewhere. That's going to be a 3 firepower machine gun. And then the coax machine gun, which is attached to the turret, usually right next to the main gun, is a 5. If there's another number, that'd be the anti-aircraft machine gun. A Tiger doesn't have one. Then you have your main armament, which is an 88, and then it's an L, which is a long, which is a really powerful gun. Allies hated this gun. And then this is your rate of fire, which is a 1. So anytime you roll a colored 1, when you roll a hit on your colored die, if it's a 1, you're going to get a rate of fire shot, which means that shot didn't even count, and you can do it again. Now, this box all the way around outside here, this means it's a slow turret. That's gonna, when you're figuring out your modifiers to hit somebody, we'll talk about later, you gotta look at this. It's a box. Alright, now, that's, for the most part, that's the front. Let's look at the back. Alright. Here we go. A654, what the heck does that mean? Well, this is your APCR, or your special ammo as we commonly call it. And if it's 1942, you're going to need a 6 to get it. If it's 1943, you're going to need a 5 to get it. 1944, you're going to need a 4 to get it. And when you roll your shot, you declare special ammo, and I'll talk about that in a hit procedure. Alright, your basic morale level is a 9. Your SD with smoke discharger, that's not like what the Panther has. I can't even pronounce that word, but that's a smoke discharger, and we can talk about that maybe. Crew survival is a 6, which is really high. Even if you kill this tank, unless someone shoots it and kills it, as long as they don't blow it up or burn it, then the guys can roll 2 dice, and if they roll 6 or less, these guys, a crew can bail out. And countless times in ASL I've seen crews bail out of tanks and then find a Panzerfaust and shoot and kill the tank that just shot them. Alright, so that's your basic rundown of what's going on in this counter. And let's the T-34. Basically the same, except for he's got a 16 here. He's a lot faster. He doesn't have to roll to breakdown. He's got a normal 11 for his armor. It's not in superior, but he's got a box 6, normal size target. Now you see the circle here. The circle means it's got a fast turret, which is good for the Russian. 85L for his gun. Then his rate of fire is a 1. On the back, 1944, he's going to have a 5 for special ammo. 1945, he's going to have a 6 for his special ammo. So there's a good chance late in the war he might get it. His smoke dispenser number is a 6. Crew survival is a 6. Another good roll for crew survival. Alright, so that's your tanks. So let's talk about movement. The first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to roll 2 dice if we want to start him up. As long as we don't roll a 12, we're fine. So I roll 2 dice, let's say I roll a 5, I'm fine. But if I roll a 12, I'm immobilized, and for the rest of this game, this tank cannot move. Alright, so let's just say I didn't roll a 12. So he starts up for 1 point. A lot of times we'll use these big dice, especially if you have a big battle or lots of different tanks to move, or the possibility to get shot at and you have to pause. So we'll use these big dice to designate how many movement factors. So 1 to start up. Now, if he's buttoned up, which means his hatch is not, his hatch is not open, then it's just 1 movement factor to move along. So he starts up for 1, 2, 3, 4. He's just moving right down the road. All right. If he was crew exposed, I got a counter for that. If I'm crew exposed, which is good and bad. Crew exposed means that there's a probability your tank commander can get killed by a sniper or by enemy fire and all these other things. But if you're crew exposed, it's easier for you to hit the bad guys when you shoot at them, and it makes your tank move faster. So if he's on a road, he gets double movement allowance. So it'd be, instead of being 1, 2, it'd be 1, 2. Alright, so that's if he's crew exposed. Now the way crew exposed works is during your movement turn, during one phase, you can either button up or you can go crew exposed. And you can do that at any time, and it doesn't cost a movement factor to do it. So a lot of times what guys will do is they'll start crew exposed, doom, 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 and then when they get where they want to stop, they'll say, and my final point, I'll stop and button up. And they move this off, and now they're buttoned up, which means they're not going to get shot by a sniper. So that's what that means. Now so it's just 1. But if you want to change directions, let's say you always got to be pointing your vehicle covered arc, the way you're going, always has to be pointing towards a apex. Like this, or like this, or like this. It can't just be in the middle. So it's like this. So 1, he's here, he goes 1, 2, let's suppose he wants to go like this though. And he goes 1, 2, and then there's this bad guy Russian right here. For whatever reason, didn't shoot at him. He can go 3, 4, he wants to spin like that. 5, or you can stop here because he's frontal arc, it doesn't matter. In your covered arc, you can freely adjust this as you're walking around. So if you just want to drive right by this, you can go like this, and it's free to do this while you're in motion. Alright, so that's how you move. You can do 12 factors. And different terrain costs are all laid out in the rule books, but basically a tank's basically 1 for 1. Anything time you go into bypass, it's going to be double your cost. So if I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, if you go through trenches or woods and things like that, there's possibilities, but I'm not going to go into all that. You can look that up. That's not your basic how you use these things. Alright, so and then when you want to stop, let's say this is the situation. You have a T-34 here, and this Tiger wants to get a good shot on him. So let's say he goes start for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this guy is in a pickle. He sees this big bad tiger sitting here. He spent 4 movement factors. So what you're doing is you'll say 4, 4, 4, and you just kind of count out loud, waiting to see if he's going to do anything. Now this tank here has got lots of options. He can try to go in motion, and if he gets a successful motion attempt, boom, boom, he gets to put a motion counter, and it's +2 to hit this guy when you shoot at him. All right. So and the way that works is you roll a die, small d, 1 die, and if you roll equal to or less than the number of movement factors that you've seen your enemy unit, then you can do it. You can automatically start. So at this point, he's only seen me for 1. All right. So I go. I spent 4 to go here, so he's only seen me for 1. So if he rolled 1 die and he rolled a 1, he could put a motion counter. But at this point, he's probably going to wait and see what I do, because I'm not going to shoot while I'm moving. So I'm 4. Then I can spend a point to stop. 5 to stop. Remember, it's always waiting to see. You know, you got to say 5 to stop, and you can pause, see what he does. Now he's seen me for 2 movement factors, so he doesn't decide not to do anything, which is fine. And I could say, fine, I'm going to shoot. If I shot at here, it's going to be a tough shot, believe it or not. And we'll go through the DRMs and everything for that when we do the vehicle combat. Right now we're just doing vehicle movement. But that's bounding first fire. He's in motion, he's stopped, he's firing. The odds of hitting are very little, but you can do it. Now, this motion attempt, if he tries for the motion attempt and fails, he can't try it again. And you can't try to do motion attempt if you've already fired or done anything in your defensive fire phase. So if you're thinking as a defender that this German's possibly going to come down here and you see a half-track drive by, you might want to hold your fire on the half-track, because you might want to wait for a motion attempt when that tiger gets in there. So that's a motion attempt. Alright. So there we go. So let's say he stopped. This is our situation. In this scenario, I would probably... Well, we can just count it out. We'll get to the firing. We'll count out what the odds are for this hit. So that's the motion. And you can also try to set off his smoke dispensers. There's all kinds of options that you'll learn as you play. So I spent 5 to stop there. And then what else? If I don't want to shoot, another thing you'll see commonly is you'll say 4, 5, 6 to stop. And then he'll say, all right, so I still got 6 more points. So I'll say, I've only seen you for 1, 2, 3, and the way you do that is because there's a big DRM for how long you've seen the enemy unit. So a lot of times they'll say, I moved in here for 1, I can see you for 1, stop for 2, I can see you for 2, delay for another point, which is 3, I've seen you for 3, the magic number is 4, I'll delay for another point, which is 4, I've seen you for 4 points, and I can shoot, which means I won't have to worry about that particular die roll modifier. Or a lot of guys, the common term they'll say is, I'm just going to go ahead and delay out to 12. They can just spend all their points and then finish their turn like this. So this is the end of the movement phase. He stopped right here in the road facing this T-34. Now what's going to happen probably is this T-34 is going to try to shoot. And if the T-34 misses or doesn't kill the tiger, then the tiger will get a shot off, and we'll see what happens in that. Now, if you fire in the movement phase, you're not going to get acquisition counter on the bad guy. Whereas if you fire in the if you stop, then you will get an acquisition counter. That's a big reason that you'll see that. So another thing I forgot to mention was ESB. Let's say that that's speed breakdown number. You can try to get a little more movement factors. Let's say he got to here and he was 12, and he was still in motion. He didn't spend a point to stop yet. I can declare an ESB attempt. And what an ESB attempt is, you can try to push a little more out of your tank. You can do it for up to 25% of your starting movement factor. So the tiger here can try it for 4 more movement factors. And for every movement factor you spend, you get a die roll modifier. And you have to roll 2 dice and not get a 12. So for the Germans, it's +2. It's +2 because he's German. Germans just, their vehicle would have the tendency to break a little bit if you push it a little bit too hard. The Americans have a plus. Every country is a little different, so you have to look that up in the book. But for Germans, it's +2. So that's how ESB works.